If there's anything that life, fortune cookies, and space god Jeffrey Wright have taught me, life is a prism of endless possibilities. You can start in one place, in one set of circumstances, heading in one direction, but by the time you get to the finish line, you might find yourself at a completely different destination. The 2014 Tigers won the American League Central with 90 wins, which was their 4th straight division title since 2011. It was also the last time they made the playoffs in the 7 seasons since. In just a few years, the Tigers would turn into not only one of the worst teams in baseball over the course of a season or two, but one of the worst teams of the last 100 plus years of Major League Baseball. But if you take a closer look at the Tigers just before the franchise jumped off a cliff, you'll find something really special. And then you'll realize that you found 2 special things. The pitching staff for the 2014 Tigers had 5 members who'd go on to win a World Series starting for another team, and had 5 present or future Cy Young Award winners. This grand storyline has been cooking for almost a decade, and it culminated in the announcement of last year's breakout American League Cy Young Award winner, Robbie Ray. Speaking of cooking, with fresh ingredients and clear instructions to prepare them ready to go, HelloFresh gives you the great tasting meals you love without making you sacrifice so much of your valuable time to prepare them. You can go to HelloFresh.com and use code StarkRavingSports16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. With more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit option available, HelloFresh helps you reach your goals by sending healthy and delicious meals to your door weekly. I've had one of the busiest weeks of the last 2 years, and working hard to get this video done on time was just one piece of that. Thanks to the meals HelloFresh sent me, I saved a ton of time cooking right when I needed it most. And with pre-portioned ingredients on hand, you can just up the serving amount when you cook as needed, so you can save food for the rest of the week and save yourself even more time in the process. Some of the meals do sound fancy and maybe even a little intimidating, but the recipes you get with your delivery make preparation really simple. I do have to admit though that before this week I had no idea what mincing an onion meant. One of the recipes I got was for balsamic fig chicken, and even though I had no idea what 2 of those words meant, I made it pretty easily, and I'm happy and honestly a little shocked to say that it was a 9.5 out of 10. You can go to HelloFresh.com and start customizing your own weekly recipes today to choose what you want sent to your door. And when you do, use code StarkRavingSports16 at checkout on HelloFresh.com for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. A big thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, David Price, Anibal Sanchez, Rick Porcello, and Robbie Ray form what I'm going to refer to in this video as the Spectacular Six. Each of these 6 had their own individual starting points, but their paths converged for a short period of 2 months in Detroit, Michigan. And nobody could have known at the time, but looking back now, we have the information to be able to admire just how special that convergence was. Looking back now at that 2014 Tigers staff with your 2022 eyeballs, you'll probably recognize a bunch of cool names. You have the 5 Cy Young winners and the 5 World Series champions, one of my school's most popular alumni, someone named after the place Walter White did his business, Jabba Chamberlain, getting a mention in a 3rd straight video of mine, that Coke guy. From the frame of reference of an observer in 2022, we see 5 Cy Young Award winners on the staff, and in the rotation, 5 World Series champions. From the frame of reference of an observer in 2014, they'd see a staff with the 7th worst team ERA and 10th worst starters ERA in all of baseball. Now, it's not like Detroit's rotation was held in low regard. They had an above average amount of big names in that rotation, but these 6 as a whole look much better than they did in 2014. And from here, it feels like some kind of miracle that they were all on the same staff at the same time. 2014 was a true nexus point, not just for the franchise as a whole, but especially for those 6 pitchers. Of course, you have the biggest of the bunch in Verlander at the top, already in his 10th big league season, somehow with some of his best years still ahead of him, in spite of a Cy Young, MVP, and Triple Crown already in the rearview mirror. Of course, it would be difficult for any pitcher to maintain what Verlander was doing in 2011, but his ERA from 2011 to 2012 ticked up by 1/4 of a run. From 2012 to 2013, it was 3/4 of a run, and from 2013 to 2014, it was more than a run. That's not to say that it was enough to start writing him off, but you had to be at least a little concerned after your 31-year-old MVP posts an ERA 15% below league average. And maybe Verlander doesn't worry as much about it on a different staff, but on this one, he had to worry about another Cy Young Award-winning right-hander replacing him as the top dog in Detroit. Sometimes I forget Max Scherzer was a Tiger. Forget that he was a Diamondback. At the rate we're going, I'll probably forget that he was ever a Met. After winning his first Cy Young in 2013, 2014 was really the first year that he came into camp recognized as a top-tier starting pitcher. Manager Brad Ausmus did give Justin Verlander the opening day start, but with Verlander struggling in season and Scherzer having another great year, he became the top dog in Detroit. Just in time for that free agency boost too. He looked so happy back then. And way less likely to kill my entire family. Now Rick Porcello, what the heck is that? Now Rick Porcello spent the first 6 years of his major league career with the Detroit Tigers, and 2014 was the best year of his career up to that point. After this season, he'd be traded to the team he'd spent his most memorable years with. For David Price, 2014 was the first season of his career playing for anyone but the Tampa Bay Rays. He had been in Tampa for the first 6.5 seasons of his career, and 2014 marked the beginning of the next chapter of his professional career. He was traded to Detroit at the trade deadline, which makes the timing of all this even cooler. It just hammers home that this window of time that contained these 6 in one place at one time for one team really was that small. Then there's Anibal Sanchez, the only one of the 6 without his own Cy Young award, but he did finish 4th in the vote just a year before in 2013. It was the only year in his career that he ever got Cy Young votes. Now 2014 wasn't some breakout year for Sanchez, or a stepping stone to some greater career path, but that still doesn't mean he didn't have an impact in this story. It was Sanchez getting hurt early in the season that forced the Tigers to call up rookie left-hander Robbie Ray to replace him. 2014 was just the starting line for the last of the 6. Ray made his major league debut starting against the Houston Astros on May 6th. Now he had a pretty bad first season as a whole, but he did get his call up to the big leagues in what would be his only season as a Detroit Tiger. Yes, Ray was shipped out of town after a rough freshman year, but just last year, he became an American League Cy Young Award winner. At that point in time, 2014 was a career year for Rick Porcello. His performance that season propelled him to a nice contract extension after being traded to Boston, and set him down a path to winning the most prestigious pitching award in the land 2 years later. He also won a World Series starting for the Red Sox in 2018. For David Price, 2014 was the first step away from his days in Tampa. The following season, he'd have the best season of his career and finished runner-up for the American League Cy Young Award. After the 2014 season, Max Scherzer signed a 7-year, $210 million contract with the Nationals, and his time in DC would end up defining his career. 2 Cy Youngs, 5 top 5 finishes, and 6 full seasons, 1 broken nose, and 1 World Series ring, all in Washington. 2014 was the beginning of the best part of Max Scherzer's Hall of Fame career. And instead of continuing to trend downward, Justin Verlander reversed course and pitched much better the following season. He eventually made it to the Astros, won a World Series, another Cy Young, and completely defied the laws of nature and natural aging. This video is about admiring the improbability of having the Spectacular Six all on the same staff for one brief snapshot in history. But with the benefit of hindsight, you can also admire how many fun and weird symmetrical coincidences that revolve around this season, and I'm going to go through some of them. It's going to get a little chaotic, so fasten your seatbelts. It was the only full year that Robbie Ray and David Price were in a Detroit Tigers uniform. 2014 was the first year of Robbie Ray's major league career, and a year later, he began his career as a full-time starter with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Just 1 year before 2014, 2 of the 6, Scherzer and Sanchez, finished top 5 in the Cy Young vote, and just 1 year later, 2 of the 6, Scherzer and Price, finished in the top 5. Then Max Scherzer just decided to screw around and keep doing it. 2014 was the last full season in Detroit for Scherzer, David Price, Rick Porcello, and Robbie Ray. The 2 who stayed, Justin Verlander and Anibal Sanchez, stuck around for another few years, but both of their Tigers careers ended in the same year, in 2017. Those 2, Verlander and Sanchez, would end up meeting again in the World Series in 2019. And hey, Scherzer's there too. Scherzer started Game 1 for the Nationals, Verlander started Game 2 for the Astros, and Sanchez started Game 3 for the Nationals. 2 pairs from the 6 would go on to be teammates again for a different team. Scherzer and Sanchez met up in Washington, and Price and Porcello in Boston. The 2 S's and the 2 P's. Price's first year in Boston was the year that Porcello won his Cy Young, the same year Justin Verlander was the runner-up, which was also Verlander's last season as a Tiger, and the same year that Rick Porcello got into it with Verlander's wife. I must have missed that. That's crazy. In 2018, Porcello and Price won a World Series starting for the Red Sox, and just 1 year later, Scherzer and Sanchez won a World Series starting for the Nats, both of them going through Houston in order to do it. There are so many moving parts that can make up the chaos of life. and it's nearly impossible in the moment to realize just how interconnected they are until you can look back at the things in the future. It's a sad truth, but a lot of the time the present doesn't seem that special until you make it to the future. By the end of the 2014 season, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, and David Price were all Cy Young Award winners. On November 16, 2016, Rick Porcello won the American League Cy Young. On November 1, 2017, Justin Verlander became a World Series champion as a Houston Astro. On October 28, 2018, David Price and Rick Porcello became World Series champions as Boston Red Sox. On October 30th, 2019, 10 minutes before Halloween, Max Scherzer and Anibal Sanchez became World Series champions as Washington Nationals. And on November 17th, 2021, Robbie Ray was declared the best pitcher in the American League and made history. They all took different paths after 2014 to get there, and they all took different paths to get to where they are today, but for 2 short months, these 6 pitchers were on the same team. 3 then-present Cy Young Award winners, 2 future Cy Young Award winners, and 5 future World Series champions. Nobody in 2014 could have seen the Tigers as we can now. If not for going back and taking another look with the knowledge I have now, this team would have just been a footnote in history to me. A throwaway division winner who got swept in the first round of the playoffs. Things around you may seem to be a certain way right now, but one day, when it all may look so fundamentally different in ways you couldn't have imagined, you'll be able to look back with a new knowledge and a new perspective. And maybe then you'll get to see your life and the events that have shaped it in a completely different light. There are so many moving parts that create the experience of living, far too many to keep track of in the present. Taking a step back and looking at them all, admiring the mystery of how they connect can be really fun and eye-opening. And as long as you make the effort to try, it does help you admire the beauty in the chaos.